But here you go, Ryan. You can throw those up there if they're updated. The National League standings here entering the final week before the All-Star game. And there you go. The LA Dodgers in complete command out west. Even with getting swept by the Astros, they're still in complete command. 7 games clear of San Diego and San Francisco. Giants finally won a series over the weekend, taking 2 out of 3 from the Athletics in Sacramento. So that's what you look at there. Brewers, they have a weekend where they win 2 out of 3 from Miami to keep pace with the Cubs, 4 games back. And then in the East, Mets and Phillies both take 2 out of 3 in their respective series. Phillies take 2 out of 3 over Cincinnati. Mets take 2 out of 3 from the New York Yankees in the Subway Series to split those 6 games on the year, 3-3. And then on the American League side of things, oh boy, look at that American League East, my friends. 3 games ahead for the Toronto Blue Jays out of the Yankees, who finally snapped the losing streak yesterday with a win behind what was as good of a defensive play as you'll see all year from Cody Bellinger. Yankees, it's not been their offense. Their offense has been fine during this horrible stretch. They're pitching with an ERA north of 9 in these games. Part of the reason that things have gone haywire for the Bronx Bombers. They have an off day and then we'll be back on the Yankee side of town tomorrow against Seattle. Tigers extend their lead to 13.5 after a sweep of Cleveland. Cleveland's now 10-game losing streak. They're cooked. Let's be real with ourselves. You can throw that up there if that's updated, Ryan, where the whole American League side of things, a little bit of distance finally between the wild card teams and the pack. It's Boston, the closest to Seattle, 2.5 behind. But again, they traded their best player not too long ago. All right. We can bring him in. I know he hears me, so he's smiling along already here. Our good friend, Dwayne Colucci, and I know I hear him too, so we're good to go. Colucci, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning, Jeff. Just recovering from the 4th of July weekend, but what a great weekend, I'll tell you, sporting and horse racing and just safe. Everybody was safe here in Las Vegas, so it's a good thing.
You know, I will tell you, Dwayne, and I have one other 4th of July question that's I know I'm at least have been waiting for all weekend, and I'll get to it in a second. Amateur fireworks in Las Vegas is very different than the East Coast. Let's just say that.
Forget it.
Yeah, it's a totally different
apples
animal.
and oranges.
Yeah, it's a totally different animal to say the very least. Dwayne, what was the spread 4th of July for you? That's the important question, though.
The spread was, normal. We had a nice barbecue, had some nice New York strips, little filet, some pork, some sides. We didn't do the Italian. We did the all-Americana. So, it was nice. It was a good day. And a little scotch, a little beer, and friends, family. It's just a great thing. So, 4th of July is always a lot of fun here in Las Vegas because everybody kind of celebrates. And whether they're out in the casinos or whether they're at home with their barbecues and families, or they some commute to California. It's just a big event and, always fun. And the Rampart was packed, I will say, the whole weekend. I was here 4th of July and definitely off the hook. And I want to thank all my patrons for coming out, as always. We have the best guests in the world, and definitely we do it up at the Rampart. So thank you to all the patrons that were able to come out and celebrate with us.
Well, I mean, it's patriotic to go to a place named the Rampart on 4th of July, of course, as we
yes.
know, Dwayne. We know that. Francis Scott Key was all over that when we read the national anthem. All right, Dwayne, I just want to start. I want to start in baseball, and then we want to just go through a few things here today. But you heard my intro. I just want to start in the American League because the panic that is from the New York Yankee fans at the current moment. They finally win a game. They beat the Mets yesterday. Really just a play by Bellinger in the 7th inning that really put the capper on that game for the Yankees is as good of a play as an outfielder can make. But you look at it, you see they are in the first wild card, but they're 3 games behind Toronto. Dwayne, there are books out there that have the divisional odds continuously up. Plus 140 was the best number I saw on the Yankees. I know times are bad, Dwayne, but boy, that plus 140 seems awfully juicy when you look at, just look at the run differential. I know Toronto's playing amazing baseball, 8 straight wins. Yankees have a plus 95 run differential, even with this garbage the last week. Toronto's got a plus 12. Like, those numbers got to even themselves out at some point, don't they?
Yeah, you would think, but if the Yankees start to get the pitching back into shape, it's going to remain the same. And just like you said, when you start, seeing a plus 140 and you get excited to win the division, Aaron Boone is going to definitely right the ship. They go through this every year with the Yankees. I mean, this year it's a little more, it seems more relevant because they may not have the lead at the All-Star break, which will be unique. And like we said, Toronto has won 8 in a row, but the Yankees are a much better team. And, when they put it all together and Bellinger is making the shoestring catches, Aaron Judge is starting to hit the ball, a lot of mistakes and a lot of fielding errors if you've been watching. And I don't want to pick on anybody, but Volpe has definitely been the focal point. Jazz Chisholm is not hitting the ball. I mean, what is he batting about? 230. So there's a lot of holes in the lineup and a lot of improvement. And the Yankees will rectify those problems. I mean, that was a key game yesterday. You don't want to get swept by your arch rivals, across the river. And, they got the job done. I thought it was an excellent spot for the Yankees, despite being on that losing streak. But the Mets really took it to them, and the Mets played well in this series, and the Yankees are definitely starting to get concerned, but Aaron Boone goes through this phase. He knows how to handle this squad. He definitely is built for this situation, and I think it can only improve with the All-Star break coming, it seems like, at the right time. Maybe some of these guys could get a little healthy, rest up, and get it back on track. That's a 95-run differential, like you said. When the Yankees are firing on all cylinders, the pitchers aren't giving up much, and you're seeing a lot of home runs and a lot of RBIs from the core, Judge and Stanton and Bellinger and those type of guys. So, they definitely need to draw that from the well and, get back to playing Yankee-style baseball, which is the best in the American League other than Houston. You're seeing some pitiful play around the American League, and Cleveland is a case in point, just like you said. You get these teams, they start losing 10 in a row, Jeff, and it's like, where does this come from? How does this happen where you just lose everything? And Yankees are in prime position. They're going to make the playoffs, in my opinion, unless Aaron Judge goes down or something like that. But they have to improve on the pitching. The pitching is the focal point. Got a good start from Fried yesterday and definitely were able to win and steal that game, but they have to play better baseball, and I think they can under Aaron Boone.
The Yankees were 42-25 after sweeping Kansas City on June 12th, Dwayne. They are now 49-41 after the win yesterday. So, again, remember, they did this last year, too. They had that awful stretch where they were, at one point during the first half last year, if you remember, the Yankees were 30 games over 500 in the first half of last year, or darn close to it. They were 50-22 on a win after a win on June 14th, and then they were all the way down to 11 games over 500 in the middle of July. They did this last year. So, again, I'm not sure if they should be the favorite to win the AL over Detroit, but boy, that was per those books that have it available at plus 140 to win the AL East. I would bet that now, because this is probably as bad as it's going to get for the Yankees. And they have a big series coming up, Dwayne. They take on the Mariners, who currently sit in that third slot in the American League, only a game behind the Yankees and the Rays at this point, too.
Yeah, and 2 weeks ago, we were talking about which teams could definitely, get into the wild card mix. We weren't factoring that the Yankees would be on this 7-16 stretch 2 weeks ago, but, it definitely came to fruition, and now Seattle is right involved. But like you said, Boston's involved as well, but they got rid of their best players. So what are these teams focusing on? Are they focusing on wild card? Are they focusing on rebuilding? 162-game season. I mean, you have to definitely try, or at least make an effort to make the playoffs. And, Tampa is playing still well. They're equal now to the Yankees, and we talked about that, how they were able to turn it around. Toronto is on that great stretch, but the Yankees definitely look very appealing at a plus to win that division. You talk about these teams, and they don't have a strong run differential. They don't have strong pitching, and down the stretch, that's what you really need, and the Yankees can take advantage of that. Now, you may be correct, but Detroit and Houston are in different divisions, so
Yeah.
You only have to play those to get to the World Series. So there's 80 games left before you're in that scenario. So I think the Yankees are definitely capable. They're better than teams like Toronto, Tampa, and the Red Sox, in my opinion. So that makes that divisional price even more appealing. Maybe not to win the AL overall, because you see Detroit has stud pitching other than Flaherty, who's been an enigma this year. And Houston just took it to my Dodgers, pretty impressive. But the Dodgers go through the motions against those teams. And, sometimes you'll see them have a really, really bad loss or a really bad series. But now's the time you can relax a little, because the two opponents, San Diego and San Francisco, like you said, what was that? San Francisco's first series win in like 2 months. So, they're still 7 games behind. They started the week 7.5, and they're only now they're 7 games behind, and the Dodgers lost 3 in a row. So, the National League is totally a different animal, like we were discussing Vegas and New York with fireworks. National League is a different animal than the American League. I love that price on the Yankees. I would shop around. Hopefully they'll lose 4 more, this week before they go into the All-Star break, and you can get even closer to 2-1 there, Jeff, because I agree with you. They're going to win that division.
Yeah, I still, again, Toronto is just playing so well right now. And look, the Yankees go back north of the border, the second series after the All-Star break. So they're going to have an early crack. And honestly, that series will tell the tale of, all right, well, you know what? Toronto enters the All-Star break. Let's say the Yankees make up 1 game on Toronto this week. Say it's a 2-game lead. Yankees get the Braves out of the break. The Blue Jays out of the break. Let's see. Toronto out of the break gets themselves a series right away against the Giants. So there you go. That series will be huge, to say the very least. That second series out of the All-Star break. The NL side of things, I'm done talking about the AL at this point. From a betting perspective at this point, if you made me bet today with 1 week to go, I like the Tigers to come out of the AL, but again, it's the baseball playoffs. We know wild stuff happens all the time. NL side of things, Ryan, you can throw that up. Here's the playoff picture entering the final week of the first half, Dwayne. The Dodgers, your current number 1 seed. Again, we talked about it, swept by the Astros, but still 7 games ahead of the Padres and the Giants, who are now tied virtually in the NL West. Cubs took 2 out of 3 with bludgeoning St. Louis twice in those two wins. Phillies took 2 out of 3 behind a Zach Wheeler 1-hitter, where the only hit was a home run yesterday against the Reds. Then they have a 1.5-game lead over the Mets, who have created a little bit of distance from themselves to the rest of the wild card pack right now, Dwayne.
Yeah, and the Mets started to play good baseball again. That's good to see, Jeff, because they are the best team, out of the wild card teams, if not the best in the East. So, it's good to see them start to play well. Pete Alonso is really carrying this team, and now Soto is starting to swing a hot bat. He's been unbelievably hot, and that's what they need. Soto just, he's scraping the dust off. He had to get acclimated. Everybody has to get acclimated to their surroundings. He wasn't getting a read on the New York City crowd and the New York publications, because, you still have that Yankee parody and the Yankee fans booing him. But, just embrace Queens. You're the Prince of Queens now. And, Queens is a huge, huge borough. You know that, Jeff, just as big as the Bronx. And when the Mets are playing well, everybody's going to rally behind them. And the Mets really improved. They took 2 out of 3 from the crosstown rivals. And it was great to see St. Louis touching on them. They can't hit the ball, Jeff. I mean, how many times they were shut out back-to-back for the first time in how long? And they were shut out like 4 times in a 10-game span. So I'm not worried about St. Louis. Philadelphia is definitely a solid team, but I think the Dodgers are better than them, and the Cubs are young. It's going to be interesting to see if they could maintain their lead in the division and could actually win some games in the playoffs. I'm not so sure with this roster how good the Cubs are. I think they're playing way over their heads. Out of all the teams in baseball, I think that the Cubs are playing way over their heads, and I think they could possibly come back to the pack. I mean, look at this, 7-1 to win the division, and they only have a 4-game lead. So now if Milwaukee comes in and beats the Dodgers in this series and the Cubs lose a couple of games, I mean, that's just totally out of whack. I mean, the Cubs should never be 7-1 to win the division ever in the history of baseball, in my opinion. They're not, a winning franchise. They're winning this year. Okay, but let's see if they can maintain. But, the teams chasing them are a little suspect. Cincinnati hasn't played their best baseball. St. Louis, I really don't fear them. Milwaukee is probably the major option, and Milwaukee can play solid ball, and we will see, if they could definitely in the second half overtake the Cubs. But I think 7-1 is very inflated, despite St. Louis not playing well in Cincinnati.
It's interesting because this was a division that going into the year I thought was going to be, all right, it's the champion and that's it. Milwaukee at the moment sitting in the second wild card, legitimate shot. The only concern that I have with the Cubs, because that lineup is mashing just everything. By the way, I don't make a big fuss out of All-Star nonsense, Dwayne, because it's obvious at this point the players. Yeah, thank you. Ryan beat me to it. The fact that Seiya Suzuki did not get in was insane, especially where, leading the majors in RBI, has an OPS that's only 100 points more than Fernando Tatis Jr. as well, and he got in. But regardless, that's a different argument for a different time. But, it's the pitching for the Cubs. That's really my only concern. By the way, oh, my God. Ohtani's really minus 1450 now to win the MVP, Ryan? Oh my goodness. That does not feel like that should be that big of a runaway, but there you go. There's where Ohtani's at.
I think the pitching helped that because now you got to play it on both sides. So you got to take that into consideration.
I know, but that's crazy.
I definitely think Soto has a better chance than Crow Armstrong. All right, the kid's playing well, but he's not a top 5 player in the National League, in my opinion. But, I beat up on the Cubs a lot because I just think that every year you see this, and then all of a sudden you're going to see them lose 20 out of 25 games, and it's the Cubs. So, I agree with you, Jeff. I think the pitching is their factor, and I think it will collapse. They are mashing the ball. Don't get me wrong.
Their offense is awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is, but that has to also be reined in and come back down to earth. So, we'll see how the Cubs play it out. I'm not sold on them yet, but Ohtani's value, there is no value in the MVP. I would look at guys like Soto, definitely, even Crow Armstrong, but you're not getting much value there at 15-1.
No.
So, I don't even know, but the Cy Young Award is totally different because Skeens is another guy where he never wins games. He's always pitching 5-6 dominating innings. Either the bullpen blows it late. His record isn't that enamoring, but his ERA is. Zach Wheeler, like you said, phenomenal pitching outing. Definitely one of the top pitchers in the National League, in my opinion. Webb, he's good. He's solid. He's a Dodger killer. But you look at this, I guess Skeens, they're telling you almost won it already. But I think Zach Wheeler will, continue on and be the ace for the Phillies, which is a strong statement. And when you're dealing with a playoff team, as opposed, not that Pittsburgh isn't playing well. They're playing very well now, but they're not a playoff team. Let's put the cards on the table. You have to look at Zach Wheeler because he'll be pitching games that mean something down the stretch, whereas Skeens will just be padding stats.
I said it last week, Dwayne. I thought the numbers were completely wrong. Wheeler should have been the favorite for a while now.
Sure.
Since his first start of June, Dwayne, Zach Wheeler has thrown 40 innings and has given up 3 earned runs.
That's unbelievable. 40
innings, 54 strikeouts mixed in, 7 walks. He has not given up hard contact. Yesterday, his only hit he gave up was a home run. And the last 2 outings, 17 innings, 22 strikeouts, 7 base runners across it, and only that 1 earned run. I think he should be the favorite as he is. And I think, we always have to be careful when we're talking about, and Alex and I have had this conversation on the air, of course, but you always have to be careful of awards markets for betting-wise because they're voted on. And you always have to be careful of what the narrative at play is. And to me, look, Paul Skeens is having a Jacob deGrom circa 2018 year where the Pirates are refusing to score for him like the Mets refused to score for deGrom. And deGrom ended up winning multiple Cy Youngs with barely being over 500. But Wheeler's the best pitcher on a playoff team that's in the heat of let's face it, that is the most competitive division race in baseball by margin. At this point, AL East could end up being that case, but the Mets and the Phillies are going to go back and forth another 5 or 6 times, more likely than not, over the next 3 months before the season ends. If the Phillies win the division and Wheeler, again, he doesn't have to be this good, he just has to be ace level, it's Wheeler's award. And he's never won it, too. And also, too, Dwayne, he's retiring after next year. So there you go.
That's amazing. I can't believe he's doing that. But like you said, you have these analytic voters who will look at the scheme stats and try and put a spin on it, like you said, similar to DeGrom, where they're not taking into consideration, like you said, that Zach Wheeler is in a dogfight. That is the toughest division maybe in baseball, right now. And if this guy continues to win games and lead his team into the playoffs, you have to take that into consideration. There's no pressure on Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is expected to go out there, strike out a number of guys, pitch his 5-6 solid innings, and go from there. Zach Wheeler is a workhorse that you could even get a complete game out of. So, I think you're mixing apples and oranges. Skeens is the face of young pitching, and that's why he gets so many votes. And, whether it's social media with his girlfriend and all that, everybody knows who Paul Skeens is. And that also comes into play when you have an award that is voted on, like Jeff said. Jeff hit the nail on the head, and you have a lot of people that just get enamored with Skeens and the flashy strikeouts, the great stuff that this kid brings. And, if he does happen to win in the second half and have an above 500 record, that even makes it harder on Zach Wheeler. So I agree with Jeff. I think Wheeler is the Cy Young Award winner, but there's a lot of baseball to be played. And you have 80 games left. There's a lot that remains, but I think that Wheeler should be the favorite right now.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Skeens has been amazing. He's been amazing. But Wheeler,
unbelievable. You can't knock him.
Yeah, Wheeler's been better. And Wheeler, again, I think that...
He was even out there with the grounds crew the other day. He was trying to go on a vote. He's helping the grounds crew, Paul's guy. Boy, I love it. I was bored, so I had to help these guys out. I figured I'd get out there, rake a little dirt, kick some around. But you got to love a guy like that. You know that his heart and soul is in the game because he's involved in every aspect. So great to see a young talent like that has a flair for the game.
Dwayne, I just want to ask you real quick because we are less than 2 months away from week 1 of the NFL season. Also, by the way, we'll be able to bet. I know game lines are available for some games out there at other books, but we're 5.5 weeks away from week 0 at this point for college football, Dwayne. Just what are your plans up at the Rampart this football season, and what can people expect when they come visit you up in Summerlin this upcoming football season?
Well, I expect another great football season here at the Rampart. The South Point will provide great lines. I know when Chris comes back, he'll definitely have, the college games of the year fired up. We already have the win totals. We got everything going on. So the video wall will be fired up. We have a $500 cash giveaway each week. Just swipe your rewards card, bet on football, and you have, the virtual entries in there. It's announced every Tuesday, 500 in cash, 300 free slot play, 200 free slot play. We're going to have that going on. We got the daily coupons going on. We're opening all these new fabulous restaurants as well. So, it's just going to be unbelievable. Fabio's already here. Fabio Vivaldi and Ipazzi, unbelievable Italian restaurant. And the word is that it's just incredible. We opened that this past week. We're going to have, a little pizza place. We're going to have burger places. We're going to have dim sum. We got so much going on in the Rampart here. And it's just a full rollout, basically, revamping 90% of our food and beverage. And you're still going to have the Hawthorne. You're still going to have Jade. You're going to have Nomois, who you should know that place, Jeff. 105 years in Chinatown. Unbelievable reputation. Yeah, it's going to be fabulous. So we got so much going on. We may relocate Starbucks. That's part of the expansion. We're going to add a few slot machines, I should say video poker machines in my Race It Sportsbook as well in the back there, so you can play, have action constantly, watch the football, play a little, video poker and Keno and stuff like that. So the Rampart is on the map. This is a fabulous, fabulous property. Michelle does a great job, Michelle McHugh, running this property. And, I work in cohesion with Sam Garitano. The relationship with the, South Point is just fabulous. We're going to have the full South Point betting menu, got the jackpot cards out already, which, opening week of the NFL is a major, major attraction. Get those cards in. I mean, there's only $5 and you could put unlimited entries in. It's so much fun. And we have them in the racks at the Rampart and South Point already. We are geared up for the NFL season, and it's going to be an exciting season. I mean, tough to get a read on, everybody's anticipating the Chiefs again. Baltimore is going to be great. Buffalo, solid teams. We'll see if Brock Purdy could get Frisco back on the map. Outside of my Cowboys, it's looking exciting throughout the NFL season, and so many different teams that could improve and have chances. You got so many young players out there as well. We're going to see if Sanders could crack that starting lineup for Cleveland. Definitely in Jacksonville, fabulous players. So it's going to be so exciting here at the Rampart, and we always have it fired up on the video wall. Hopefully the Raiders could improve too here in Las Vegas, but that's another tough nut like Dallas. So, unfortunately, the Vegas team and my favorite team aren't going to really, in my opinion, make too much noise. But, Washington as well now with the addition of Debo, phenomenal season they're anticipating. But you know how the NFL is, one injury away and you're done. So we're ready. We have tons of promotions, tons of great food and beverage outlets. We're going to have the bucket of beer specials, all that going on at the Rampart. The best race at sportsbook in Las Vegas.
I'm excited. I'm excited for all the new restaurant additions as well for the property too. And I'll just say this real quick, Dwayne, because you touched on a lot of football related things. So our previews are starting next week. We'll have a little bit of a tease, and then we'll tell you everyone our plan next week to get all of our NFL stuff out there. This is a very difficult NFL season going into for me, because in my early work, everything points to Buffalo, and you know how much that hurts me, Dwayne.
Yes, but I mean, do they ever win? They're another team. It's like, everything points. And you know what's funny? Last year, I didn't think they had a chance, and they played great. You watch this year, we all think they'll have a chance, and they'll come back down to earth. But the whole problem is the division is terrible. That's the whole problem. But you do have Pittsburgh improved. They played very solid last year. You definitely have to watch out for the Chiefs. Harbaugh is going to have the Chargers much improved. The Ravens are right there. There's so many teams on that AFC side, and we didn't even talk about Joe Burrow yet. So Buffalo has got a long road. And can they ever beat the Chiefs? Can they ever beat the Chiefs in a playoff game? That's the whole key. If you can't beat a team and they get your number, that's that.
That's the $1 million question, right? I mean, if they can just finally beat Kansas City, they had as good of a shot as the 11-second game is still the one that's going to, for our 13-second game, I should say. Yeah, it's going to forever.
He's unbeatable. They find a way to beat that team. It's uncanny, Jeff. It really is. And don't, the Jets will improve. Don't kid yourself. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Fields plays there, but the Jets will improve, Jeff. And, even New England, they're going to be, somewhat improved, in my opinion. Miami, who knows what they're doing? We have no clue what they're doing. I never have a clue on what that team is doing. I know Tyreek wants to go out there and prove, that he is the Tyreek of the past, but if you don't surround him with good players, what could you do?
I'll just say this. The AFC East, everyone loves New England. I am not a huge, they could take a step forward, but end up only winning 6 or 7 games.
Odd.
We'll see. Again, we'll have all these previews coming up in the next month. He's Dwayne Colucci. Get him at the Rampart, Race at Sportsbook Director, I should say. He's there today if you want to go say hello. NYBookie Dwayne on X as well. DC, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next Monday.
Thanks, Jeff. You're the best. Have a great Monday and have a great rest of your week. And let's cash a lot of tickets right before that All-Star break, because there's not much to bet on, I'll be honest with you. And keep your eye on the World Cup Club. That's finishing up, and we'll have that fired up as well this week at the Rampart. So, slim pickings now when you get to the All-Star break, and you could do your homework like we're going to do on Sports by the Book, the best radio show, period. We're going to get you ready for the NFL season, and that's definitely what we want to do. And Chris got us started for League of the Bear with the college. That was a phenomenal show. And, always respect Chris's opinion. He's one of the best out there. And we provide that here on Sports by the Book. All that we could provide to the customer and the consumer, we try to do. And that's how we show you how the relationship is with the bookmaker and customers. So we'll have you ready for the NFL season. Jeff's going to have all his homework done. We know Alex will be rejoining and have her opinions. Just a great time of the year at All-Star break because you could break down college and NFL and get prepared for the upcoming season. And don't forget, Saratoga again this week, and then Del Mar on the 18th. So we got a great month. If you're not into the baseball, start getting into these ponies because you're going to see the best horses in the world running at Saratoga. Sovereignty is getting ready. Baeza, I heard, is looking at the Jim Dandy. I was shocked. He's going to go back to Toga. So we're ready. Horse racing, get you prepared for college football. The best show out there, Sports by the Book, by far.
My guy, as always. Best promotion there is. Dwayne Colucci here on the show. DC, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll look at today's baseball card, plus the trivia question will pop in the bottom when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
Football contest sign-up season is here, and you don't want to miss out on the action. With millions of dollars on the line each and every week in the world's biggest football contest, there's only one proxy to trust: footballcontest.com. Maddie and Tony have set the gold standard for football contest proxy services with 20 years of experience and over 13 million in winnings for their clients. All you have to do is get to Vegas between now and the start of football season to sign up in person, and they do the rest, making sure your picks are entered every week. Whether you want to play in the Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, Super Contest Gold, or the new Super Contest College Contest, Maddie and Tony have you covered. Their new website has everything you need to know about these football contests and more, including how you can reserve the best proxy in the business. Experience matters, so go with the pros at footballcontest.com, the gold standard proxy service.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book. Oh, look at that. Yamamoto all ready to go. I'm all ready to go. It's Jeff Parles here. Big thanks to our guy, Dwayne Colucci, who, as always, was spectacular. The best, as we know, every Monday with us here on the show. All right, before we get into today's baseball action, let's go to some award talk on the AL side. We didn't really mention this with Dwayne, as Cal Raleigh just continues his march to try to get back into this race. Raleigh already at 35 home runs. He's one of now 7 players. I need to make sure my mathematics counted out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I should say. One of 9 now to hit 35 homers in his team's first 88 games, joining, this is a pretty good list, Ryan. You ready for this? Babe Ruth, Jimmy Fox, Roger Maris, Reggie Jackson, Griffey, Mark McGuire, Luis Gonzalez, and Barry Bonds. Pretty good. Pretty good collection there for our guy, Cal Raleigh, who's now 6-1 to win the MVP. Now, look, you missed the boat. You could have got 30-1s a while back, and I think you'll have another opportunity again to get a bigger number. But Judge, Judge has 33 home runs himself. He's still hitting 360. He's got an OPS plus at 233. He's still got an OPS over 1,200. Look, Raleigh is an amazing story, but it's still Aaron Judge's award unless if he gets hurt. Now, if Judge gets hurt, I'd be very interested to see how this market plays out across the board. But I just don't see a very big path for Raleigh unless if there's a Judge injury. And at this point, there's no value on the AL board. Scooble's the clear third choice. Jose Ramirez and Bobby Witt are done. Is that even the right Ray at 150? Honestly, Ryan, I think Aranda's been better, in all honesty, than Caminero. So I don't know. I mean, there's really nothing to be had in this MVP market unless if you really are convinced Cal Raleigh's going to win, but I'm not convinced of that at all. It's going to be Judges still. And then in the Cy race, can we declare the Cy Young race over? Can we just declare it over at this point? Especially after what Scooble did yesterday, even though he didn't win. I mean, I know Hunter Brown's been spectacular. I know Framber, look, at 50-1, not an all-star, by the way, I think would be your only possibility of taking a bet at this point at 50-1. But this thing's done if Scooble stays healthy. He has been that insanely good. Last 2 starts for Scooble, 14 combined innings, 4 hits allowed, only 1 walk. Again, we talked about how great Scooble's been walk-wise. His strikeout to walk ratio is now 148-14. I mean, it's just comical how good Scooble's been. Minus 260. It's his award. It's over, guys. Now, the question is, do you think there's minus 260? Do you think there's value on Scooble? I don't, because the pitching award, injury, Hunter Brown's been awesome. DeGrom's been awesome. You can't do it. Even though, again, I think this race is over, assuming Scooble gets to the finish line in one piece. All right, let's get to these games here today. Let's start in Cincinnati. The Red Hot Fish, another series win for Miami. Or excuse me, they didn't win this series. Finally, a series loss for Miami against the Brewers. They go to Cincy. Reds lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. They're going to be junk against Singer here today at Great American Ballpark. The total is 9. Reds are minus 130. Oh, this is priced. Feels cheap on the Reds. But Marlins have pitched great. Junk doesn't walk anyone. That's the one thing to know about Jansen Junk this year. If you look at his stats, Junk this year has thrown 37 thrown 37 and a third, has only walked 2. So he's been great control-wise. Gives up a lot of hits, though. He's given up 40 hits and 37 and a third. So even though he doesn't walk a lot, he still gives up base runners. So that's something to keep in mind. Reds, we know, much better offense at home than on the road. All right, we go to Milwaukee next. This is a good pitching matchup, high-end one at AmFam here tonight between 2 aces, Freddie Peralta and Yoshi Yamamoto tonight for LA. There he is, minus 30 on Yamamoto, plus 15 on the Brewers and Freddie Peralta. Peralta was great in his last start out, shut down the Mets in a victory last Wednesday at Citi Field. So a little bit shorter rest for Peralta because of the rain out and then, of course, the consequential start the next day. You know, Dodgers are coming off their worst series of the year. They got pummeled in that series by the Astros all weekend long, and that was without Houston's best player. 18-1, 6-4, 5-1. Dodgers offense struggled, only 6 runs in those 3 games. So I just wonder if that was a lull because they just played baseball's second worst and hammered up on the White Sox all weekend long. By the way, White Sox took a series in the Ineptitude Bowl at Coors this weekend. But I would be very, very careful in this game, but either way. It's a good price on Peralta, but the Dodgers are coming off an awful series, and you expect the bounce back. So this is a stay off. This is a very, very difficult handicap. Wouldn't take anything in this game. Would completely stay away with the Brewers and the Dodgers. Here's one I'm not going to stay off of. Let's go to San Diego next. Padres take 2 out of 3 from the Rangers. And Darvish making his season debut tonight for the Padres. Ryan, you guys saw him in Vegas, right? He threw 1 rehab start in just north of us in Summerlin. Zach Gallen's been mostly bad this year. So this is all a stomaching of the guy making his season debut tonight. How long do you expect Darvish to go? What do you expect out of Darvish in his first start of the year? But I know Gallen's not been the same guy. Gallen's got an ERA north of 5, FIP north of 4.5. He has not been the same guy this year. And I understand it's the first start. I know we are very cautious when we're talking about guys making their first start of the year. But I do like Darvish and the Padres here tonight at minus 120 full game. And I also would consider laying the first 5 run line with San Diego tonight. I thought I had that there. Plus 20, yeah. I'd consider first 5 run line, and I'd consider San Diego minus 20 here tonight for the game. You can get plus 120 minus half a run first 5, minus 120 full game on the pods. I don't mind either of those with Darvish, even with him making his season debut here tonight. All right, we go to San Francisco next. Phillies, quick turnaround. No off day in between going all the way out to San Fran, basically as far as you can go in the NL for a flight for the Phillies. Minus 30 on the road with Christopher Sanchez tonight. Logan Roop will make the start for San Fran. And I like Roop and the Giants here tonight at that plus price. I'd also like him in the first 5 as well. Same price, full game in first 5, plus 15 both ways. It would only be a look to the San Francisco Giants, who finally played a good series. It was a weird one, though. Giants did play a night game in Sacramento. Now, granted, that is basically any travel at all going from the capital of California back to the Bay Area in San Francisco. So I would only look to the Giants here tonight. This is a big series for the Giants. Big series for the Phillies, too. Again, Phillies ending this first half with a West Coast swing to San Diego as well as the San Francisco trip. So a tough West Coast swing to end out the first half for the Philadelphia Phillies, who again lead the NL East by a game and a half entering action tonight. Mets will, of course, go to Baltimore and Kansas City to end their first half, trying to make up a game and a half before we get to the All-Star break. All right, we go to Detroit next. 2 playoff teams at the current moment, the Tampa Bay Rays and the number 1 seed in the American League and the best record in baseball entering this week, the Detroit Tigers. It's Montero, it's Boz at Comerica here tonight, and this is a really good price on the Detroit Tigers. You're getting even. You can even get a plus 102 at the Westgate Superbook. Look, I understand this is a pitching advantage to Toronto, but, I mean, you're giving me the best team in the AL at a plus price at home. I'm going to take it. So this is a Detroit bet for me here tonight at plus 102 on the Tigers. So, yeah, I understand it's a mismatch, but plus price at home, and Montero hasn't been that bad. He's been average. He's been an average major league pitcher so far this year, and he's been better at home than he's been on the road. Now, granted, almost all of his outings have been at home as opposed to on the road this year. All right, up next, we go to the south side of Chicago. The scorching hot Jays, winners of 8 in a row, will take on the White Sox, who are now 30-60 after taking 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. Now, here's the one thing I'm a little bit concerned of with this Toronto run here. Toronto's only won 2 games by more than 2 runs in this stretch. They just won 3 games in a row by 1 run against the Angels, 4-3, 4-3, 3-2. So a little bit lucky during this stretch, but you're facing the right team here. Now, I'm going to stay out of this because I do like Burke on the other side against for the White Sox, Berrios on the side for the Blue Jays. This is actually a pretty reasonable weather game, 74 and the wind blowing slightly in. So this is not a weather game in favor of the hitters here today, unlike one that we're going to get to in a few moments in Boston. So I would steer clear. I think we're cool on the pricing. You can make the argument Berrios should be a slightly bigger favorite than he is, but I'm going to stay off of this completely. All right, let's go to Houston next. Astros and Guardians. Astros just swept the Dodgers. Cleveland's lost 10 in a row. Here's what the Cleveland offense has done during this 10-game stretch. You ready? After they beat Toronto on June 25th, here's what the Guardians have done during the stretch on offense. 0, 0. Ooh, a 6, but they still lost. 0, that's 3 shutouts. 2, 4, 0, that's 4 shutouts. 1, 0, that's 5 and 2. So Cleveland has exceeded 4 runs once during this stretch. They've exceeded 2 runs during this stretch twice. Awful offensively. And they pitched great this weekend. It was 2-1, 1-0. And yesterday, 7-2 is not really 7-2. That was a 1-0 game where Clase threw a wild pitch and it tied the game in the 9th inning. So their pitching's been great. Their offense has been beyond anemic in this stretch. And why would it come out of it in Houston? Now, This is a pitching advantage for Bybee over Gordon here, so I'd be a little bit cautious here. But boy, you're giving me Houston minus 130 against a team that can't hit right now. That's definitely a look on the Stros here tonight. It just, oh boy, good price. Good price on the Astros. It would only be a look to the homestanding Stros here tonight because, again, just Cleveland's offense has been awful over the last 10 games. All right, let's go to Anaheim next. DeGrom and Kikuchi. All-star Jacob DeGrom. Another great year for DeGrom, who's back and fully healthy again. Angels got swept, as we told you, by the Jays. 3 one-run losses, so a little bit of bad luck there, but still, you get the Rangers here. Houston, Texas just can't get out of their own way. It was 2 out of 3 in San Diego. Just not enough offense this year for the Rangers. This is priced correctly. It would only be a look to a first 5 under in this game. If you can find a 4, if it goes to 4, I would do it. 3.5 is probably okay as well on the under, but there's nothing to do on the side here. DeGrom's a proper favorite at minus 130 in this game. All right, let's go to Boston next. Now, we get 2 bad pitchers in Gomber and Fitz here tonight. Red Sox are minus 220. Rockies, by the way, a hearty 21-69 through 90 games. Not nice for Colorado. The weather is insanely good hitting conditions. 83 degrees with the wind blowing over the monster tonight. Woo! That's not good for 2 bad pitchers. Now, if we find a 9.5, grab it. There's a lot of 10 juice to the under. You can get a 9.5 still. Would not hesitate. Would do it right now. Still think even a 10 is good, though, with these awful pitchers tonight. Even with, again, Colorado's offense stinks. But the Red Sox, against bad pitching and especially against lefties, have been good this year. So let's look to the over at 10 at Fenway here tonight. All right, last game on the board. Heaney and Cameron. Pirates have been associated with a shutout now for 6 consecutive games. They shut out the Cardinals 3 straight and then didn't score a run in Seattle this weekend. Unreal. As we know. By the way, you want something fun here? The last time the Pirates got shut out in 3 straight games by the same opponent in one series, so they got swept for a full 3-game series and getting shut out in all of them. Ryan, audience, Grover Cleveland was president. That's the 1800s, my friend. 1900s. That's the 1890s. Last time that happened.
Oh, no! Disaster!
Yeah. Been a while. That's that's not our thoughts on Grover Cleveland's presidency. That's our thoughts on the Pirates offense, guys. By the way, until the current guy in office, Cleveland was the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. As you know, 22nd and 24th president of the United States. So there you go. There's your fun fact of the day, Ryan. And that's about as far as we'll go into politics on this show. Minus 45 on Nick Cameron, plus 30 on Heaney. This is an under if I've ever seen one with these 2 pitchers. I'd go under first 4.5. I go under 8.5 in the full game. We've talked about the Royals' struggles on offense, especially at home lately. Kansas City over the weekend did take 2 out of 3 from the Arizona Diamondbacks. All right. Because there's no whiteboard here today for Alex, I'll just give you mine real quick. Over 10 on the Red Sox game and the Tigers, even money. The number here at the South Point are my 2 favorites here today. So over 10 on the Red Sox and Rockies and even money on the Detroit Tigers. Don't mind the Padres first 5 full game. Don't mind the Giants first 5 full game as well. And I don't mind the Astros as well for the full game. All right, trivia question. By the way, welcome to the chat for City by the Bay as well. Thank you for joining us here on the show and everyone else who's been in the chat here today. All right, trivia question before we get going on a Monday. On this date in 1962, William Bill Hartack became the 8th jockey to win 3,000 races, American Thoroughbred races. Which year and how many wins was Hartack's most successful year in North American racing? Vince, you're getting harder here, my friend. Getting harder with these questions. The winningest year it was in 1955. He won 417 races. There we go. There's Mr. Hardtack right there. Both Bill Hardtack and Eddie Acaro are the two jockeys on this day to have won the Kentucky Derby 5 times as well. So very impressive there. And JR is on the board. So JR, first win of the month for JR, gets in on July the 7th. JR trying to come back after Nick beat him in the month of June. There you go. Here on July 7th, final day of the first full week of the calendar week here in July. All right. That's what we got here on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. More to talk about here on the show. Alex is back on Wednesday. Ryan, I was actually almost expecting the slot machine to run behind us. Almost. That would have been a fun one. But there you go here today on a Monday, July 7th. We'll see you again tomorrow. Shout out to the crew, Jerry, Ryan, Vince, Drew Doggan, and we will see you all tomorrow right here, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.